Hi, this is Sarah Gilbert, business strategist and mindset coach. And this week we get to talk with Allan Dib, the author of The One Page Marketing Plan. Allan is a serial entrepreneur, a rebellious marketer, and a technology expert, and a #1 best-selling author. He started, grown, and successfully exited multiple businesses in various industries. He grew his business from startup to 4 years later being named by Business Review Weekly as one of Australia's fastest growing companies. This is by far one of the most actionable books that I've read in a long time. Many marketing books have a lot of concepts and ideas, which are all great, but Allan brings us to build a one-page marketing plan. So, without further ado, let's listen to my interview with Allan. So today with us we have Allan. How are you, Allan?
I'm very well. How are you, Sarah?
I'm very good, very good. So, Allan, tell me where you're from.
I'm from Melbourne, Australia, so down under.
Down under, so you have the opposite weather than we have up here.
We do indeed. We do indeed.
Enjoy. As we're heading into winter, you guys are heading into summer.
Indeed, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. We've had a long and cold winter.
Yeah, thank you. We're getting into it. So we're here today to talk about your book, which I loved, which is The One Page Marketing Plan. Everyone who knows me in that network knows that I love things to be simple and actionable oriented. And seriously, this is one of the simplest and action-driven book that I've read in a long, long time.
Wow, thank you so much.
I'm curious, how did you come up with the book?
Well, long before the book, the one-page marketing plan was a system that I used with my own coaching clients. So I wanted my clients to create a marketing plan, and so a lot of them, I got a lot of resistance. You know, people felt it was too hard, too difficult, too long, and you know, for the most part, I think they were right. And so I created a process that would make the marketing planning process much simpler. It worked great for my clients. It's really increased compliance and success. So I wanted to get it out to the world in a wider format, and that's why I wrote the book.
Nice. And I have to agree, yes, people do think that a marketing plan is complex, and you have the ability in this book to break it down so easily, section by section. And I love how we end up with just a one-pager.
Exactly.
So many marketing plans have like 32 pages, which are 31 pages that people don't use.
That's exactly right. That was exactly my experience in my first business. I hired an expensive consultant to help me write a business plan. It was like hundreds of pages long, had charts, graphs, projections, everything. It was a fantastic looking document. And what did I do with it? I shoved it in the top drawer of my desk and never saw it again till I was moving out of the office, took it out of the drawer, dusted it off, and threw it in the trash. All that money wasted. So I've had experience in the other type of plan, the wrong type of plan, as I call it.
So true, so true. So I'm curious, when you wrote the book, who did you write it for?
I really wrote the book I wish I had when I was starting to learn marketing. In my first business, I was a dead broke IT geek. I was really good at the technical stuff of what I did. So I was really good at the IT, and I had an IT business at the time. And you know, I went to all the seminars, I read all the books and all of that. And, you know, there were little tidbits from every seminar, from every book. There were some really good bits and pieces, but from what I could see, nobody had a really holistic plan that said, right, if you know nothing about marketing, here's step one, here's step two, here's step three, and this is how the big picture looks. You know, people were talking about weird concepts that I just didn't understand. You know, branding and all of this sort of stuff, and influence and things like that. And they're all great things, right? I'm not saying that they're bad things, but I was just trying to figure out, how do I, as an IT geek, get new customers coming in the door? And that's really the problem that I probably spent about a decade trying to solve. And, you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, it took me that long, and it was that expensive for me and that difficult for me. And so I really wanted to help people shortcut that process. And that's what I've made my mission, really helping small businesses shortcut that difficult, expensive and long process.
And you bring in such a great point that when we become entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs become an entrepreneur because they have an expertise, they have a passion,
Mhm.
they have this thing that they want to bring out to the world. But
Yes.
between the expertise that we have and turning it into a full-fledged profitable business, there's a gap.
Yep. Exactly.
And this is
Exactly.
where the book really kicks in into the actions. So I have lots of notes. I have so many pages that are ear dogged in the book. It's not even funny.
Awesome.
And the funny part is I also have a bachelor's degree in marketing, and
Oh, wow.
I love the book. So there's a few things that I'd like for you to maybe talk about it a little bit more with the entrepreneurs who are listening, because here the network that we're building here is really service-based entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So they're really selling it, their expertise, their time. It's kind of like you were selling your IT. Here
Mhm.
they're selling advisory services and
Yep.
their expertise to their marketplace. So there's a few key concepts that I really want you to expand on. Is first one is when we talk about in the introduction, the 80-20 rule is nice, but you have the 64-4 rule. Can you talk about a little bit more about that one?
Yeah, I love that you bring that up. And I have to say, it's not something that I invented. It's something that I discovered. Right? It's a natural law, just like the 80-20 rule. So for people who are listening, most people have heard of the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle, where we know that 80% of the result comes from 20% of the effort, or 80%. And we find that in nature. We find it in crops. 80% of the harvest comes from 20% of the crops. 80% of the problems come from 20% of the clients. So the 80-20 rule, it's a universal rule, and we find that it applies to almost all aspects of life. And here's what I discovered. I discovered that the 80-20 rule can be applied to itself. So meaning we can take 80% of 80 and 20% of 20, and we get the 64-4 rule, which means that 64% of the results that we get come from 4% of our efforts or 4% of our inputs. And to me, that was incredibly exciting because, such a small amount of effort or such a small amount of things give us the vast majority of our results. And when I look into my own business and my own past businesses and current businesses, when I look, what made the biggest difference, it is those small 4% of things. It's those those really, really small pieces of effort, or those really small pieces of work, so translated another way, 96% of the stuff you do makes very little impact, and it's that 4% of high impact stuff that really makes the difference, which means one of two things. It means you can either spend 96% of your time doing not much at all and still get most of the result, or we can concentrate more on that 4% of activity and have massive leverage in our business and really get a big impact. And to me, that's incredibly exciting. So really, a lot of the work that I do with my clients is really identifying what's that 4% of things that's going to make the biggest impact, and how can we add to that, and then how do we remove or delegate or get rid of the other 96% of things that make very, very little impact, that aren't good uses of your time.
And I think that's so true. I don't know about you, but I find often entrepreneurs, they want to have like they have so many ideas that they want to do. Like, let's start social media. Oh, let's start YouTube. Let's start doing events, or let's start, a different association, or, different strategies. And there's like just so many ideas. And like, I'm like the cutthroat of saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. We're going to do this. But really, really picking what are the needle movers, the items, the tasks that are actually going to have the largest impact on your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. So really identifying those, that's the work of the entrepreneur, and then getting those done, finding what is the absolute best use of my time, what is the biggest leverage point. And that's really one of the reasons. I'm a business coach. I work on all sorts of things. I work on business systems. I work on venture capital, all of those sort of things. But the reason I lead with marketing is because it's that lever that has the biggest impact. It's if you get 10% better at financial analysis, that's great. So that has an incremental effect. Or if you get 10% better at negotiation, great. That also has an incremental effect. But if you get 10% better at marketing, that can have an exponential effect. That's part of that 4% that really makes the biggest difference.
Yes. And to add to that, because there's also, I find, and maybe you'll see that you see the same thing. I find entrepreneurs who are extraordinary at what they do, but nobody knows them.
Very much so. Very much so. And I was in that group. In my first business, I remember, like, we used to be technically so good that a lot of our competitors would hire us to teach them on the latest technology, and frustratingly, they were doing better financially than we were. I mean, we were technically awesome, and they were doing better financially. And there's nothing more frustrating in life, I think, than seeing someone who's dumber making more money than you. So
And it proves that humans will go with the people who they know, like, and trust.
yes, indeed.
Nice. There's another topic that I really like how you brought it up in the book, in the book, and it's something that all entrepreneurs know, but very few know how to do it. It's to identify the ideal client. And in your book, you talk about the PVP index. Can you extrapolate on that one?
Yeah, so we want to figure out what segment of your target market is the most profitable to work with, the most fun to work with, and who really values what you do. So because we know in almost every target market there are, there's a wide array of people who can do business with you. If you're a doctor, you can serve a lot of people. If you're a lawyer, you can serve a lot of people. If you're an accountant, if you're a plumber, if you're whatever else. There's when someone asks you, who can you help? You can say, everybody. I can help everyone, right? So, and that's probably true. But really, from a marketing perspective, we need to choose a very defined niche, because here's the thing: we want the person who's seeing our ad or hearing us speak or reading what we've written to really connect with it and say, hey, that's for me, right? So from a marketing perspective, being very narrow and specific is super, super important. It's also, if you're trying to target everyone, you likely don't have enough firepower. So it's likely that you don't have enough budget, you don't have enough time to do kind of mass marketing. I mean, if you've got millions and millions of dollars in your budget, and if you've got years to get a result, maybe mass marketing could be the way to go. I think even large companies now are really, really starting to focus. Very much so. So you probably don't have enough firepower to go too general. But the other thing is, you want to maintain that relevancy. You want that person who's reading or listening or seeing your ad to say, hey, that's for me, I want that. And, I'll give you an example. Recently, my wife, she injured her knee, and, I watched her on Google. She's in that Google box, and she types knee specialist and then the area we live in. Now, someone who treats backs, heads, necks, and all of that may still have been able to help her, but she was looking for someone who's a knee specialist, because when she landed on that page, she says, that's for me, I'll book an appointment. So people really are seeking specialists in whatever their problem is. And so you want to be that relevant person who's catering to that. And the other thing that we know is specialists charge a lot more, right, than generalists. So there's a big opportunity there.
And as you know, our market here, the people that I work with are entrepreneurs, small business owners, so they don't have millions in marketing budget. So I think niche marketing is something that is, I don't know if you find the same thing, but sometimes many of them find hard to do, because they do want to serve everyone, but they gain so much more momentum and growth and profitability when they really select who's my ideal client.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that you can't serve other people outside your niche. Like, if someone comes to you and says, hey, can you help me? That's fine. But what we're talking about is from a marketing perspective. Who are you actively pursuing? Who are you targeting in your ads? What kind of message are you putting out there? And here's the exciting thing is, once you dominate one niche, you're now the person who's known for that. We can add another and another and another. So we're not saying one niche for the end of time. We're saying one niche for now, until you dominate that vertical or that horizontal niche, and you're able to be the go-to person. And what we find very often, I mean, with a niche that's an inch wide and a mile deep, I mean, you could probably spend 30 years serving that niche and you probably won't reach it all.
Exactly. That is so true, and I really enjoy the fact that you put in there people that you have fun working with.
Yes, very
So
much
many
so.
advice in marketing and niche marketing is about demographic and profitability. At the end of the day, you have to have fun with your clients. That's what
Yeah,
life
of
is all
course.
about, you know?
Of
Love that.
course. I mean, if business is not fun, I mean, what are you doing it for? I mean, so that's yeah. It's just, you don't want to be miserable in your own business. So if it's no longer fun, you're not doing it right, basically.
Another point that you found that you put in the book that I found was really relevant to my audience here is how do you put it in the book? I loved how you put it because this is an answer that I get all the time in terms of what makes you different. People say quality and great service. And
Yeah.
you say it's the worst thing to say. Why is
Yes.
that? Because in the service-based industry, basically that is an answer that I get probably 95% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's a baseline expectation. I expect someone I do business with to have good service, to provide good quality, all of that. And in fact, it's probably a legal requirement in most places that your product is of acceptable quality, of durable enough, and serves the need of the person. So that's not a major differentiator, and everybody's going to say that. Everybody's going to say, I've got great service, I've got great quality, and all of that. So we need to go beyond that, and this is where a lot of people get stuck. They say, I kind of do commodity stuff. There's nothing kind of massively unique. And when I talk about uniqueness, I don't mean that it's got to be something that mind-blowing that nobody's ever invented. It's highly likely you or I or most of the people listening will never invent something that's never been thought of in the history of humankind. So we leave that to Steve Jobs's and Elon Musk's and
Yes,
people like that. But
they can do it.
they can do it, exactly. But uh, I've never invented something brand new that's never been thought of and all of that sort of thing. But what you can do is take a little bit of a unique twist, maybe price it differently, package it differently. And I'll give you an example. So I don't know if you have Dollar Shave Club in Canada, but it's basically where they sell cheap men's razor blades, the same that you'd buy in Walmart or any department store or whatever, very cheap razor blades. But they started selling them as a subscription service because they were catering to men who don't want to go into stores, right? Very, very smart. So they turned cheap men's razor blades into a subscription service, and now it's something unique. And they ended up selling to Unilever for over $1 billion, right? So
I know, you're right. They're not selling something that
yeah,
already exists from, I mean, I'm not the target market, but it's been around for a long, long time.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But they've reinvented how to do it.
Exactly. So can you put a little bit of a unique twist on what you're doing? Can you price it differently? Can you package it differently? Can you bundle it with something that it's currently not being bundled with? Can you take in something from another industry and apply it to yours? So a bit of a game changer that I've been doing with some of my clients is moving services that are traditionally not on a subscription basis to a subscription basis. Like, I've got a client who's a lawyer. Instead of billing on time, they now bill a flat monthly fee on a subscription service. I've got another client who works in events. They make most of their money by putting on one-off events, and now we're moving to digitize some of those events and sell them as digital products as well. So we're not reinventing anything here. We're just applying some different ways to price and package, and putting a little bit of a different twist on how things are just done traditionally, because so many industries are so insular. Like, when you ask a lawyer why is all the writing double spaced, they're like, I don't know, that's just the way it's always been done in our industry, right?
Always been done this way.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can just take something from another industry, or take something from a different way of pricing and packaging, that can make all the difference.
And in my network, there's a lot of investment advisors and wealth advisors, and I often take them to think about how do hotels do it, the hospitality and do it, because at the end of the day, the client experience is such an important component that stop looking what your competitors do and go into another field that excels in that, in this case, client experience, and just get inspiration from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
to tie in on how to change the business model and moving it from a transactional to more of a relation, you also say in your book that entrepreneurs should all have 5 sources of new leads and customers.
Yeah, I like to have a minimum of 4 or 5 because so many people are single source dependent. They get all their business from Facebook ads, or they get all their business from referrals or whatever. And none of those things are bad. Referrals are great and Facebook ads are great and all of that. But here's what we know. If you're single source dependent, that creates a big risk in your business, because we know that, especially if you're using somebody else's property, which is like Facebook, Google, all of that, they change the rules at any time. Yeah. Yeah, even referrals. Absolutely. 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 So we don't want to be single source dependent. In the IT industry, they call it a single point of failure. It's like when you have one way that the system can fail, right? And if that's considered a real vulnerability. So they create redundant systems. They say, right, if this system fails, this system automatically takes over. So that's what they do in the IT industry. And so in marketing, we don't want to be single source dependent. We don't want to be fully dependent on Facebook, because again, we know they can change the rules at any time. I don't know if you remember in the early days of Facebook, if someone liked your page, you could reach that whole audience. But then they came in and said, no, now you can only reach a small percentage unless you pay us to boost it. So pay to play, exactly. And so people who'd put in massive resources, massive time and effort to build their Facebook likes suddenly, were like, what is going on? And they were massively impacted. Same with Google. People were reliant on very cheap clicks early on, and then Google came in with the Google slap, and they basically, some people's clicks went up by a factor of 10 overnight, and businesses went out of business because they were fully reliant on getting all their leads from cheap Google clicks. And so being single source dependent is very dangerous. 1 is the most dangerous number in your business. And so you need to figure out, how do I get leads from multiple sources? So how do I create a referral network? How do I get new clients from online, from offline, from some of these different sources that you may not be used to or may not be comfortable with, because you want to make sure that your business is not single source dependent.
Yes, I love that. And I love the fact that, yes, so many clients that I know that they had very, very good years because they had referrals from one source. And when that source stopped for whatever reason, then the business just stopped growing.
Yes.
So I definitely, and to one last question, which really ties into that one, is the concept of everyone is in sales.
Yeah, so important.
That's an important one. What's your point of view? And I know you share a lot in here on this.
Yeah, so we've all had the experience of, we're dealing with some big company, and that the person you're dealing with just doesn't care at all, right? And so, they're like, that's not my job, so speak to someone, speak to the guy in sales, or speak to the guy in support, or whatever. And so you, as the business owner, you need to create a company culture that where you really push this concept that everybody is in sales. The janitor right up to the CEO, they're all in sales. So you all have the opportunity to influence a sale positively or negatively. And so making it very clear that, hey, we're not in IT, we're not in medical services, we're not in legal services, we're not in financial services. So that happens to be the way that we monetize what we do, but we're here to create a great customer experience, and we're all in marketing and sales. And so you're all going to have an opportunity to touch marketing and sales, and possibly even, you don't necessarily have to do this, but possibly even incentivizing people to feel like they're in marketing and sales. So if they've positively impacted a sale, reward them. And rewarding them doesn't necessarily even mean monetarily rewarding them. Sometimes it's just acknowledging them, saying, hey, Sarah, you did such a great job with that client. That resulted in a new contract or a new job or whatever else. And just a few words of encouragement, and that can make all the difference.
That is such a huge point. Like, sales is not a department, it's a culture.
Exactly. I love that.
So, Allan, where can people find you online, and where can they get the book?
So the book is available wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere. And people can connect with me on successwise.com. You can grab a free copy of the one-page marketing plan canvas where you can download and fill that in. So that's at successwise.com. And I'd love to connect with everyone who's listening in today.
Good. So I'll put all those links to your website and to all your information in the description. I want to thank you again for writing this book. Seriously, it's a super practical. I love even how you give like templates on how to ask for referrals and everything. It's like it's so simple.
Oh, thank you so much.
That sounds complex into such an actionable action step, like one page. This is what you do. This is what you got to focus on. Congratulations again, and everyone, get the book.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It was a pleasure being on the show.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Soon. Bye.
Bye, Allan. I hope you liked this episode. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking for more tools to build and grow your service-based business, come on over to strategist.cc and subscribe to our blog, which is also known as the best blog. Each month I share with you strategies to help you build and grow your business. And I also share an insider tip. So this can be a technique, a tool, a tactic, something that I use in my own business, and you can turn into action in yours right now. So make sure you subscribe. And now it's your turn. Look in the description below. I put you the link. Download the one-page marketing plan, get the book, and get your ideas into execution. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday.